want to thank you guys for coming to the Crio podcast. My name is Red. I'll be the host, and we have my partner in crime, Vivo here. And,
Hello.
and today, special, very very special guests. These guys are amazing. Every time I met them, every time I play with them, it's been an amazing time. We have the Hunters with us today. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves individually, I guess starting with Zero and then working down on the list here, I would appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. My name is Zeroden. I think most Black Desert Online players know me, but if you do not know me, I am a warrior slash PvP streamer. I do some PvE content, but I mostly focus on the PvP side of things. I've been playing the game since closed beta test 1. I'm a Pearl Abyss partner, and yeah, I stream like 3 days a week on Twitch, on Kick, on TikTok, on YouTube, whatever platform you want, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday evenings.
All right.
Yep, and
Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm Casphere, known as these right hand and second in the command of the Kinsman Hunters. I'm a sorceress main. I've been playing BDO since December of 2017. Love the PvP. I also PvE a lot as well. I've done a lot of progression. I came in second place in the Masterclass tournament, so I know a lot about Sork and I know a lot about PvP in general. And, yep, that's me.
I guess we can do this like in order like this. Go Answerm and then Grizrek and then Hill.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Answer. I'm a member of the Kinsworn Hunters, of course. I've played Black Desert on Musa since Musa came out, which was like a month after the game launched in NA. So I've been around for a while.
Grizrek, been playing since 2016 as well, off and on. Stop playing here and there because I get annoyed, but this time I'm trying to stick around.
I'm Hilding. I'm a Shine main. I've spent a good bit of my time at Owens and doing a good bit of PvP. I was in Digital for a while, so I know the Siege scene and Node War scene a good bit, and I do a good bit of life skills on my off time too.
All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks for the introductions. So I guess while we're getting there, the first question I want to really ask is, Zero, like, so how'd you form the guilds? I know you have guilds in many games. So like, what started like you starting to form and whatnot?
So this is a loaded question, but I will do my best to answer. Uh, I, I started the Hunters on a game called Mech Warrior 2. And in Mech Warrior 2, there is a game structure called clans, right? There wasn't guilds, it's clans because it's a first person, third person mech shooter. The clans are an important part of the game, and in MechWarrior 2, you were by the game design put into a clan. And then when I went on the online component, there was a bunch of clans, and I thought the idea was fascinating. Now I was very young at the time, so I didn't know, but apparently all the clans were rooted in BattleTech lore. I did not know that, but I thought these were really cool, and I wanted to kind of create my own. So I created the Hunters. At the time, we were just called the Hunters. And yeah, I mean, we went from Mech Warrior 2 to Mech Warrior 3 to StarCraft. Well, we went Mech Warrior 2, StarCraft, Mech Warrior 3, and our first MMO foray was Grawl Online. And that's because Mech Warrior 3 had just kind of died to Mech Warrior 4, and Mech Warrior 4 was not a good replacement for Mech Warrior 3.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my members encouraged me to try out Grawl Online. That was our first MMO. And that's where we were already pretty big coming out of Mech Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So when the servers that were like kind of at a capacity of like, 25 to 50 players, a sudden population of like 50 more players show up, it's kind of a big group. And we did. We showed up with a pretty large number. We had established ourselves pretty solidly in Mech Warrior. We had made ourselves known in the community, and we kind of like stood out from basically everybody else because we had well. I guess that's not true. We stood out in a way that is almost the opposite to what we stand out in Black Desert Online.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that we are now is very similar to the way clans are structured, but because we weren't an actual in-game lore clan, like we weren't Jade Falcon, we weren't Smoke Jaguar, we were the Hunters. We were very different in that regard. So we were one of the only ones that had an original I guess, name and story. The rest of them were all something based in the lore of the game. Um, and that just kind of carried with us. And we carried all the same traditions we established from Mech Warrior into the MMO that we played. So we had our colors, we had our themes because Mech Warrior was heavy on the theming. So the hunters are also heavy on their theming. And because of that, we didn't know this going into the MMO space, but that made us very, very unique and it made us stand out a lot. And yeah, it's kind of how it got started.
Oh, that's cool. They started off like another game and then jumped over here like over multiple games. Bringing that
Yeah.
actually up in like into like multiple games. Because I know you have like a lot of like people in command. Like, for and this is a question for everybody. If you guys want to chime in, that'd be great. How since there's so many different games, I know it's not just Black Desert. How how is it really like hard to keep everything flowing in one direction? Like, does he get messy, or is like how do you deal with it if it does become that way?
Like when you say in one direction, like as in guild activities.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So generally speaking, I mean, I'll speak on my part, and then I'll let the other guys talk and add in.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, it's not too difficult because generally when we want to do something, I'll just be like, "Hey, I want to do this thing," and we just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll grab the guys that actually want to do whatever that activity is, and then we'll make it happen. And then usually when we're like, let's say we say, "Hey, we want to do Blue Battlefield," right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just gather our guys that want to do Blue Battlefield together, and then we'll find out how many more we might need. And either we'll, if we can't get it done internally, we'll ally with somebody and work with them. But if we can get it done internally, we just do it internally. But generally speaking, we try and find the guys that want to do the activity first. And then this is kind of like where for me as a leader, I have to be a little careful because I can encourage somebody to do an activity they don't want just by asking them. Because our guys, by nature of being a hunter, by the virtue of being a part of this guild, we all kind of just want to help each other. So
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not intrinsically interested in doing whatever that activity is, they will do it because their guildmates are, and then they'll be miserable while they do it. So we kind of have to be careful with the way we ask. So we generally want people who want to do the activities first, and
Gotcha.
we also encourage those activities by making them a positive experience when you walk away from them.
No, yeah, it's very
Cass, Cass, answer him. Anyone else want to go?
Yeah, and a lot of times if it's like on a side division, because we'll call it main division, side division, right? So BDO's our main division.
Mhm.
We had a Final Fantasy 14 division. They had a group that was doing raids and stuff like that, and doing the newest content when the new expansion came out, and they kind of did their own thing. But we always encourage them to come back to BDO to play BDO as well, like doing guild bosses once a week, showing up for meetings and events and stuff like that. So there's definitely a structure to it. We don't, it's always like the roles and responsibilities are always divvied out to someone that's qualified to handle it, and they basically report back to the main leadership team of what's going on, so that we can make sure everything is organized and is functioning as it should be. So it's not too difficult. It's pretty organized in how we do it.
Okay, so
Answer him or Grizzly Hill. Any you guys have any input? Or you guys good?
yeah.
I'm good.
Good on this topic.
Okay, yeah. So, I know you say you brought up like having like different branches and stuff like that. So, like, is it safe to like I think we were talking about it before one day. That you have like the youth and I guess it's like more like a structure of like management and then there's something under management and then there's the people and then stuff. It's safe to say it's like that, correct? Where it's like
Yes and no.
leader
Yeah.
then. Mhm.
Yes, no, but yeah.
You want to answer this one, Cass?
It's so you have leadership, and then you'll have people that are considered like essentially an officer in the division that they're running.
Mhm.
That is also part of leadership, but everything that happens, if it impacts the guild and then that division, is reported back to leadership.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I see. I see. So, so I guess speaking, we're gonna go back like to like the main part, like the main core, which is like BDO. Uh, I want to say warring back then. I feel like for this is me, my opinion. Warring back then feels a lot different than warring now, or guild v guild activities feel a lot different. Because back then I felt like it was it was like personal, but it wasn't like too personal. It's more like, yeah, I understand that we both need resources, and sometimes like having guilds come to help each other. It made a very, like, I guess for me, a very authentic GVG versus like now it's like some people don't want to fight, some people do want to fight, and it feels like a bit more negative personal rather than positive personal. Um, what are your thoughts, like how guild versus guild was back then versus like now for BDO?
I'll definitely take the first bite on this one.
Hmm.
So GVGs back then, the reason that they became so personal and problematic was people just could not keep stuff in game, and this was seen across the game. You'd have people
Hmm.
that would fight in game, and the next thing you know, somebody's getting doxxed. They'll go take that person's name, they'll put it into social media, and then they'll try and find out who they are and where they live and what they do. And then they use that within their private Discord, their private, like, siloed communications to generate, a lot of really negative backlash. It was very rare where people weren't trying to reach outside the game. And there was a lot of indicators that people were. If they couldn't beat you in game, they wanted to find a way to beat you. So they thought, hey, let's reach outside the game and do that. And we saw a lot of that. And that was a big part of the problem with PvP. It's part of what made it so damn toxic, was like they just couldn't keep it in game. Like, they just couldn't keep it in their pants, so to
Hmm.
speak. And that's the truth of it. And if Perlibus did a better job of actually policing up the game with the terms of service back then, we probably wouldn't have the problems we had, leading up to the GVGs being gone. But on the good side of that, we did have those very authentic experiences. People fighting over resources, people fighting over locations, and whatever random beefs they may have had, right? And that was a very interesting thing, because you had players that didn't want to fight, but they would fight anyway. They'd have to fight because they didn't have a choice. You could put them under protection, but if you didn't want to put them under protection, that player had to make a decision: do I stay weak and get farmed, or do I get strong and then do the farming? Right. So it
Hmm.
came down to, like, it became a situation where you had to make that decision within you. Do I have to get strong and get good so I can defend my guildmates and defend myself? Or am I going to roll over and take it every time somebody wants to come over and give it to me? And most players that would have that desire, that innate desire to, like, stand up and fight, did so. Now, after the changes, you don't have that type of player anymore. They're not
Hmm.
motivated the same way. So because they're not motivated that way, it's a perfectly valid response to be like, I just want a PvE, and they don't want to engage in PvP because the game is catered to that. But back then, that's not what the game was. Black Desert Online had the market cornered on the open world PvP game, and now they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No. If
I
anybody else
mean,
want to go in on that, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been grinding in Arsha, and even Arsha, people just walk by you, don't even try to duel for spot or anything anymore.
Hmm.
It's just completely dead.
Guild decks used to be fun and long lasting, and you could have fights that go on for months. But nowadays, it feels like you have to kind of walk on eggshells whenever you do get the rare war deck, because one officer gets fed up and they drop the deck, and then your fun's over.
Yeah, and to that note, like, to what Grisrek is saying, there are some guilds that, even after the system has changed, I have a lot of respect for, because they would just hold the deck. But there are so many that I just have no respect for because they just couldn't. Like,
Hmm.
one guy would get killed at a grind spot, and he'd be like, "Nope, I'm dropping the deck," and then the fun's over for everybody, which is a really crappy way for the system to exist. Because that is how you generate people to come out. That's like, oh, you're getting messed with a grind spot, I'm going to come out and defend you, right?
Yeah.
Versus
Right.
now it's like, well, I'm just going to drop the deck, and now they can't bother me, and then the fight's over for everybody.
Before BDO, I was anti PvP. I never did PvP in games. I was a PvE Andy, dungeon crawl Andy. That's all I did.
Hmm.
Uh, what changed when I started playing BDO was I was grinding at Sawson's back in the day, where you could have a party of 5 and you could put it on, so it sold the random trash to the marketplace, and it was actually lucrative. And I was trying to hit level 55 at the time on Mystic, and the guy came in and was like, yo, I want your rotation, duel for spot. And I was like, no, I'm not going to duel for spot. Why would I fight over a spot I already have? I've been here for 30 minutes. I have my bus running. I have my carriage with my horse,
Hmm.
sitting over there holding the rest of my loot, because the loot was freaking heavy.
Heavy. Yep.
And so he decked our guild. Next thing I know, I'm being jumped by 3 people. My GM of my old guild, Seasoned at the time, he shows up. He CTGs. And then end up fighting for legitimately 2 hours. That was the first real GVG I ever had in BDO, and it changed. It was life changing. I was hooked after that,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna lie, I got my ass kicked
Yeah.
because I didn't have no gear. I was very new. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I was motivated. From that point on, I need to get levels. I need to get to 56. I need to get to 60. I need to get to 61. I need to get my gear. I need to get my full gruntle. I need to get my Triasula accessories. I need to get my Tet Serap's necklace back then when that was, having good gear. And, as the years progressed and I became an officer in my old guild and then a GM, and my guildies would get messed with, you know, I got to the point where I could defend them. I got to the point where I could, you know, hold my own. I could defend myself in a duel for spot, because at
Yeah.
that point I knew what I was doing. And, as a hunter, we did what hunters do. We hunted people down with GVGs. We go through grind spots. Serendia, Elvia. We'd find somebody grinded. We'd show up and kill them, and then all of a sudden we've got a huge fight in the middle of works. So there was that drive and that motivation to I need to get gear so that I can defend my spot, I can defend my friends, and because I want to have fun, and honestly because I want to, we want to kick people's asses,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to lose, right? So when they
Mm.
took that away, you know what I'm saying, the hunger, and Z of course spoke on it, that came into PV, that you had
Yeah.
is gone. I'm grinding trillions of silver. I mean, you got to think about just to hit a deck weapon is potentially 3.5 or 3.3 trillion silver. I'm grinding this out for what?
Yeah.
Most of Siege, most of Node War content is gear capped anyway.
Yeah. Capped.
No one wants to fight in uncapped because they're going to run into digital and they're going to run into Baga and they're going to run into family. They're not going to want to fight them in an uncapped scenario because they're going to lose because of this disparity.
Yeah.
And everything's time gated. So you're just kind of on a hamster wheel for the sake of being on a hamster wheel. And while the toxicity of the game has gone down, and because people are no longer fighting for resources, you have money every other hour, and 50 million servers. It's also kind of killed the PvP scene. People are just doing their T2s, their T1s, and they're going on about their day. And that's the problem I have with it. I actually recently did an experiment where I went around and I jokingly on regular service, not Ursha, asked people to duel for spot. And I was actually surprised. Like a few of the older players, they knew what duel for spot was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually did it again off stream, and there were a couple people that like, what is DFS? What does that mean? People don't know what it means to fight over resources anymore. They don't feel threatened. If you flag on them, you're just gonna end up going red. They lose nothing. So um, which obviously makes griefing over grind spots really popular with some sugar
Yeah.
builds. So you know, yeah, it's great that it nerfed the toxicity, sure, but it has also killed a lot of people's motivation, and that's why we lost so many of the older PvPers from this game.
I don't even attribute, like, honestly, the GVG change to the nerf and toxicity. I attribute Perlibus actually upholding and upholding their TOS. So
Well,
what you're
that's
saying
true,
about
yeah.
DFS is like, sure, that is kind of lessened anyway, just because now you have multiple servers, way more servers than we've had before. Granted, we have the same amount when we left, but we had Marnie Realm that's available every hour, every other hour.
Yeah.
So like, if player doesn't want to play with you, they could just go to Marnie Realm and they could just grind like
Dodge
for an hour.
You could
entirely.
just
Most
leave
players yeah, most
100%.
players just grind for an hour at a time. And there is a second order effect to that. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit later because I feel like it's going to change the topic. But um, I basically, it goes into what my recommendation would be to Perlibus to actually fix this game. But I digress. Go ahead. You guys.
No, yeah, like I think I speak because when I first started video, I started I played Ninja. I tried it for like a little bit, didn't think I really like it. Went back to my other MMO, and then I think around 2019, I think I saw somebody playing Meiwa. I'm like, that's a cool class, and I started. That's when I just started playing it full time. And I remember my first ever duel for spot, and I'm like DFS. The guy's like, yeah, we duel for the resource. I'm like, that sounds really fun. And then when he killed me, I'm like, man, this isn't really fun anymore. My SWAT's gone.
There's my spot, and now you're waiting 15 minutes or 10 minutes, I think, was the cooldown to swap channels.
Yeah.
So you have to wait a
Yeah, it
little
was
bit.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it was
that
10
made you
minutes.
want to
Yeah.
get better at the
Yeah,
game.
it did.
Because then you can
Yeah.
hold your spot.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
did.
especially when they would come up there, kill you, and say "sit, dog." You'd be
Yeah.
like, "Fuck you,
Yeah.
dude."
Yeah, the DFS thing made me get my DP gear.
I honestly, I was like, when I was learning Black Desert Online, and we would do PvP on at Sawson's, like that was kind of like the spot.
Yeah.
That's kind of what got me into it. I was like, what is happening? Because I went out there with my guild, and before I know it, another group is attacking us, and that kind of got me hungry to get gear and get strong. I could go to the game. Like that was a super fun time. And before you know it, you'd have like massive battles over at Sawson.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Sawson's,
the-
Pirate Island.
the biggest thing that got me into it was there used to be a red shy. I forget their name. But they used to go around in their DP gear to like orcs and stuff, and just CC them in the middle of packs and just have mobs kill them. And they did that to me once. And I was like, yo, I want to do this, be able to do this to people, or be
By
able
any chance,
to
that shy's
swap
name Reminian?
to the like DP gear when someone's trying to jump me from my spot, so I can just survive it. And
Yeah, that
that's
sounds like
what got
Reminia,
me
dude.
into it.
Who?
That sounds like Reminia. Was that Reminia? Lux the Legend?
It was Lux. It was Lux. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lux is Reminia.
That's the name.
Yeah, that's Reminia.
Guys, classic. No, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
You good?
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think I remember. And this is gonna live in my brain. And I think what happened that day is the only reason I think I'll go to another game. Like right now I play like Final Fantasy, but I always come back. I remember the day that you and Ray were practicing, and I think it was Olakita, and I came to watch you guys fight, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what went wrong, but then you guys are fighting. Then some other person would come fight, and then two other people came to come fight, and then out of nowhere we have Vessel, we have Blue Sky, we have all these. We're just all fighting at Olakita, and I'm just like, is this what old? This is how old GVZs felt like. Just we're at a single point in time where people are PvPing and people are just jumping in, and we're all fighting, and it's like all like 1v1v1. So it's not like you're like teaming or whatever. But like, I think that was the most fun I had PvPing in this game, and I think I'm like searching for that moment again, and that's why I think I keep coming back because that was the most fun.
So, like, the thing about that is the GVGs back in the day, they weren't like that. You weren't necessarily looking for a fight. You go out there looking for your red orcs grind, and I'd go out looking to kill you, right?
Mm.
And then so I'd find you, and then I'd kill you, and then what would happen is you'd get mad that I killed you, and now your death, your entire guild just saw that was on the server that you died to me. So they're all start mustering up and coming out to come help you out because they're like, oh, he's getting killed by so and so. They'd come out and they'd help you. And while they're doing that, I'd call my guys over too. I'd be like, yeah, I found a fresh kill. And then before you know it, it'd be like a 10 on 10 or 20 on 20. There used to be like I streamed for a while, like when GVGs were one sided GVGs were a thing. And that was like honestly my primary content. I wouldn't run around on our show. I'd run around and look at all the guilds that were decked against us. And it wasn't uncommon for me to end the night on a Garmoth, like in Garmoth's pit doing Garmoth, with like me and 5 of my guildmates fighting off 20 fucking players or 30 or 40 players. It was insane. And we would just run the fucking roads and run them ragged, and we would trade up on them, and they would lose their damn minds doing it. And just everyone watching it, it was sheer entertainment. It was like, and it was, I thought that would last forever. Those were the golden days, man.
I have a clip of us in Garma's pit, and almost every player in the pit was red, minus my guild.
Oh my!
In terms of like their flag,
and we were never that big. Like we never brought like 20 people. We bring like 10
We
people
were
to the pit.
Yes,
fighting
I
3
heard
guilds, 3 or 4 guilds. It was insane.
And then other guilds that would show up would also fight those guilds because they would see on my stream that we're fighting them. And it was mayhem. It was complete chaos, and I loved that chaos. I reveled in it. Yeah, back when people were doing Node War and Siege War, we were creating fights at any given time. We weren't beholden to like a 2-hour time schedule that Pearl Abyss set. We would just show up somewhere and create battle.
which is
Oh,
great.
I have a clip of it.
Yeah. I remember pretty much every Garmoth I would just sit there, and I was rarely ever actually in the PvP because mostly Guildhall weren't decking people, but every time I would just sit there and watch everybody fight because it was entertaining. Like
Yeah,
it was something.
every Garmoth was an opportunity
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
a fun night,
the
and sometimes
Garmoth
it would last like 3 hours for us, which
True,
was
yeah.
amazing.
Garmoth's fights were not world bosses for us. For the hunters, Garmoth fights were guild content. We would go there. That was like the place to meet and fight.
It was amazing.
Oh my goodness.
It was like, and it wasn't just Garmoth too. Like before Garmoth, it was Kazarka and Karanda. Those were war zones. We would go there to fight. And back in the early days of Black Desert Online, those bosses weren't safe zones.
Yep, I remember
We would get into fights with guilds, and they'd be like, "You're not going to be able to do world boss anymore." I'm like, "Watch us." So we would just go to the world boss, and while we're fighting the world boss, players would be fighting each other, and that honestly made it so people weren't really willing to bring boss alts to the world bosses because they needed to fight. So you'd see everyone on their fucking mains at these world bosses fighting the bosses, and then as soon as that was gone, as soon as safe zones appeared around the bosses, you started seeing a lot of boss alts, and the bosses started dying slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the red Zerkers that would come in and just like 200% everybody?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of content that was based just around that ability to do that, and
Yeah.
it's all gone. Like, and you don't have a version of the game that you can go back to and experience it. That's just gone, and no other MMO is doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can move into like what do you think are recommended ways like we could probably like alleviate or at least bring some of that back?
I could think of 2 really quick ways, but I want to hear from everyone else first.
Bring back one-sided decks.
So that by
Yeah.
itself won't fix the problem, because what we would have if they brought back one-sided decks, and like I know this is like unpopular opinion, but it's the reality. If they brought back one-sided decks tomorrow, we would have a second wave of people that would just quit the game, and it wouldn't bring back enough people to replace them. We lost a population of people when they took away one-sided decks, and we gained a different population of people over time that do not understand that system at all. So we would
Yeah.
actually lose players, not gain players, and then that would hurt the MMO in the long run.
So
Yeah.
let me expound on that. So before we lost one-sided decks, they came out with Marnie Realm because people were complaining about having their grinds interfering with, and Marnie Realm was perfect for that. You could grind 1 hour unmolested, and then they even made it rechargeable. When they went and removed the one-sided decks, it just completely killed the player-driven content that was happening every single day. Like the world was super, super dangerous.
So there's a middle ground.
I probably agree with you though. Yes, it would be. They'd have to do something else in addition to one-sided decks.
Right. And I know what the middle ground would look like, but I want to hear from everyone else. Cass, go ahead.
I think what they would have to do is guilds that wouldn't be able to deck on other guilds would have to opt into it. And when they opt into it, they would not be able to change their guild type for a certain period of time so that anyone can deck their guild. But if a guild says we are PvE only or we are a casual guild, they cannot deck on other guilds at all until
And
they change that
every
status.
guild that does node wars and all that kind of content has to be
automatically
opt-in.
are opted in. Correct.
Yep.
It's got to be a long period that it locks. It can't be like a few days. It needs to be like a month.
Yeah, like if you place for Node War that week, you are opted into PvP.
So here's my middle ground, right? They bring back, well, they have guild classifications, right? You can classify your guild as a PvP guild, a life skill guild, a PvE guild, whatever. If you want to do Node War or Siege War content, you must classify as a PvP guild. And as long as your guild is classified as a PvP guild, you are one-sided deckable. And then if you are a PvE guild and you wish to deck another guild, you can deck them. But the moment you deck or accept the deck, you also become a PvP guild. Your guild classification changes. That classification cannot be changed once it's been changed for at least a month. That's number 1. Number 2, you have Marnie Realm that's infinite. I'm not talking about like, oh, I have to recharge it for an hour. I'm talking about an infinite Marnie Realm. However, that Marnie Realm is capped. You cannot get over 250% drop rate, no matter what you do. 250% is the hard cap for that Marnie Realm, just like the regular realms are 300%. So At most, you can only grind up to 250% drop rate in the Monty realm. Outside the Monty realm, you can max out up to 300%, and on Arsha, you can max up to 350%. This now encourages players to engage that content based on risk versus reward factors. I think if you do those two and they continue to enforce TOS as they have been, the problems go away. I think people,
I think you'd have
everyone
to
is
make
happy.
it. You might have to make it a little more, less. Otherwise, people are just going to sit in it regardless because the difference between 200 and 300% is really not that much.
It is
250
that
and
much,
300.
though. It's the same reason that people go to Arsha. They'll go to Arsha
Yeah.
for that extra 50%.
People go to Arsha because Arsha's basically dead these days.
I
But
think
Arsha
the-
is dead these days because of the threat of PvP.
yeah, we
But
get
in
40%
on a
think the
more
regular
way-
realm. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
think the
Jose.
way you revive Arsha is to not only increase the drop rate, but the drop amount.
Oh yeah.
That's not. I honestly don't think that's sufficient. Because and here's why I'll say that. The reason that people go PvE on Arsha, like this is inherently the problem with the concept of what Arsha is. Arsha's problem is that people that want to PvP go there to go PvP, but people who want to PvE go there for the drop rate, right? So they're there for two different reasons. One's there for PvE, the other is there for PvP. If the people that went there for PvE were also willing or able to PvP back, they would be more inclined to do so. But the problem right now is you can't. You can't, at a flip of a switch, suddenly be in PvP gear, because even though the game systems exist now, where you can alternate your build based off of the type of content you're in, like for the set, for the instant a player attacks you, it puts you in your PvP set, right? The game doesn't have that capacity. So no matter what, when somebody starts a fight with you, you are at a disadvantage on Arsha because you are grinding in, your PvE gear. And the only time that that's not the case is when you've hit PvP or PvE cap and you're grinding in PvP gear because you want to get a grind up, but you have to choose a lower end spot. So people are not there for the same reason. If you're there for PvP, it's not the same as the reason for somebody there for PvP or PvE. And they're always going to be at a disadvantage. And there's too many fucking pussies, excuse my language, fucking fat, wet vaginas that will run around, get one kill, and then fuck off because they got one kill and then act like they're the greatest shit. And there's so many insecure players that do that it makes it so that like people just don't want to be like, I just don't want to give this guy a kill.
It's worse than that, I think. I mean, there's a lot of people who run around and do that, except they're not only doing that, but they're wearing the evasion gems or the DR gems so that they can't die, and their entire goal is to hold you in mobs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I mean, like I said, they're just there for different reasons. So that increasing the drop amount, increasing the drop rate doesn't really resolve the core problem. The core problem is, why would people go to Arsha? And they've already answered this problem, believe it or not. They answered it with the hardcore mode servers. And all you have to do is create Arsha as its own sort of game mode with your actual character, with your actual gear, but the rule set is a different. And there is a couple ways you can do this, right? Honestly, you don't even need it to be Arsha. You could just make it a deep desert, right? Like we have this huge landmass in the desert, right? What if the most valuable grind spots were always in the deep desert? And the deeper in the desert you go, you are always flagged, no matter what. It's a war zone, period. You're going to go in the desert, you're going to be a war zone. Now, that region does not need to be a region where it's like, okay, I need to go there to get this drop that only drops there. More like that region is the most valuable region for those drops. High risk, high reward. The mobs aren't that strong, so you can go there with your PvP gear on and not hit AP cap, or be at the AP cap and grind at a lower efficiency, right? So now you're in your main gear doing the PvE content, getting the best drop rate in the game, but the area is always hostile. You go into the deep desert, you're hostile.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be hostile, you're in the Marnie realm and the deep desert shit doesn't exist.
You would still end up with all the PvEers trying it anyway, because as long as the number is bigger, the PvEers will all go there.
Sure, but that's a known risk at that point. That is just like Arsha is now. It's a known risk they take.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
It's
at that
not
point,
putting them
it's-
at a disadvantage.
At that point, it's
Yeah.
like before, right? Like you'd go to orcs back in the day, and you'd be like, "I'm probably going to get killed, but so be it."
But
right?
it wasn't like it is now. You didn't.
Yeah,
you
no,
could
exactly.
grind orcs in your PvP set. You could grind orcs with a maneuver, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't grind Idania mobs with a Nuver, and obviously there's no Nuver in the sense, but you can't grind Idanian mobs with your PvP crystals, right?
Yeah.
But if the AP
No.
cap, if you created the content with the AP cap in mind for end game PvPers, and the mobs are so weak that a person who's just a flat 750 gear score can kill them pretty easily, the same way a person who's at 850 gear score can kill them with a 5% advantage, which is really not much, then you can just go out there in your PvP kit and grind. And then if a player shows up, you fight the player because you're not at a gear disadvantage. You don't need to switch your PvP gear.
That also means that every player with lower gear score is going to beeline to that place because they don't need as much AP, and it gives the best in the place. Sure, they might
and
get
they
killed a
can.
bunch. They
Yeah,
might get
and
killed
they
a
will.
bunch, but as long as they're getting
Why is that
mobs
bad?
too.
But why is that bad?
Because we have a bad system in this game right now where people will come out of seasonal, they'll get up to gear where they can do essentially Tungrad Ruins or Darkseeker's Retreat, and then they're stuck there for basically ever until they can
But
get to
the
like
reason that that's not
Orbita.
bad is because it gives them that option to then go to that place with high risk and high reward. Right. So they can go there and grind, and there's a high reward. And I'm saying you don't need to do this on Arsha alone. So you're not limited to 2 servers. You could do this on every single server. That spot, those areas are PvP hotbeds. They're deep desert. There's like 8 or 9 grind zones in that super large desert region. It is a very hostile area. It's lawless. You go out there and you can PvP to your heart's content. A lower geared player willing to take that risk gains the reward of, yes, he gets grinded gear at the same level as somebody who's 850 gear score. Cool.
It also
That's a
gets them
risk
ready
that
for
they're willing to
PvP
take
too.
to get up. Right. And it teaches
Yeah.
them PvP, and they'll be like, I want to get geared. It's that same mentality
Mhm.
of, I just got my shit stomped in by some guy who has 850 gear score. I need to get gear to get gear like that guy.
PA is not is familiar with this already because they have a similar system in BDO Mobile, or at least they did last time I played it. If you were grinding in the desert zones, you were PvPable no matter what.
Oh, thank you for the
You
video
have to be.
for that. This Garmoth. This is crazy. This Garmoth clip.
Oh, the clip that I sent you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It doesn't even fully
Also,
do it justice.
That
'cause there
was
was
every night for us.
You'd
Yeah.
also have to have some pretty big limits on that, Zeke, 'cause otherwise the big guilds will just monopolize it.
That sounds like content to me, because again, they'd have to
It
monopolize
is.
it on every channel.
It
They'd have to
I mean,
do
is.
it on
at that,
every 50 channel.
I think my opinion on that is literally the big guilds monopolize it, more guilds have to power up. That's what the game used to be. If a group wanted to lock down a grind zone before, they would do it.
They would lock down world bosses.
didn't-
Remember trying to go to
We
Zarka
didn't
and
used
get
to
murdered
have
by
the
people?
mega guilds that we have today, though. Like, they raised the limits on how many people can be in guilds and how many people can be in alliances.
Yeah, but then a smaller guild goes into alliances with a guild that's slightly stronger than them, and so on and so on, and people get stronger.
Kind of, yes. But we've also kind of conglomerated the strongest people at the top over a long time, over many years.
No, I see what you're saying.
I mean,
saying.
yeah,
I see what you're
yeah.
saying. Because like, yeah, like I do get the, because I would like a place where people just PvP and we just PvP. I knew what you're saying. Like a lot of like top people just go to one guild, and it's just like, yeah, like realistically, everybody could get better to play against those people. But it's like, my thought process for BDO is like, what game do we want it to be? Do we want it to be like Final Fantasy that's super accessible, but people like go off and on whenever they want, or do we want to have like a hardcore like core of niche players that like PvP and resources and stuff like that, and stick with the hardened crowd and then get people at a much slower rate, but they stay.
People like
mean-
that's the thing, is that this game again has what makes a game good. If it's just like Final Fantasy 14, you know what happens? People just play Final Fantasy 14 because they've already got
Yes. Mhm.
decades of content, right? So like what makes a game good is having a unique angle. There's a reason that games like Albion Online continue to exist in the way that they exist. Albion Online does what they do well, right? And they'll be fine. And they'll always have a niche because they've cornered the market on what they're looking for. Black Desert Online had the market corner on action combat open world PvP, and then we gave it up. Now we're just an action combat PvE MMO.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I said I was talking to Suzanne and Yeti and Yasini. I'm like, I think having the core value, having core players and slowly getting players, I think for BDO is a much more beneficial process than trying to appeal to a vast amount of people who already heard bad things about this game. So are they even gonna come try it even if they know it's like mostly PvE now? Probably not.
BDO
there's
is a
also
very
like
very hard game
I,
to get into. I would
it
not
is.
actually recommend it to anybody that I know.
I mean, I recommend the game because I still think for the purchase price of this game, there's a lot of content you can get out of it. If you think about sometimes when this game's on sale for $1, you're still going to get a
Yeah.
ton of content out of that dollar,
Dollar.
even if you don't play it to the level that you and I played at. So, like, you don't have to play to the end game for $1. You can get into the game and play this game for fucking 10 years and get 10 years worth of content. That's a good deal.
And I think I was agreeing with because Suzanne brought this up too. This is a really good point. It's like the game is what you want the game to be. So like you don't need to do everything efficiently. If you can do something else to have fun, you should just do that thing, and not make it like a oh I need to do this. Like the game is what you make it out to be.
Yeah, but the issue is like people will always chase the people like to min max, especially
Oh
on
yeah,
players. So it's like that's not really that abnormal for them to want to min max content like that and do it.
yeah. I
There are
just
too many
yeah.
people that have spreadsheets on this game that treat it like a second job.
I mean, so it comes down to time too. There's not a lot of people that want to put the time sink into this game to be able to be competitive in it. If you're currently a end game player and you have a friend who wants to play the game with you, it's going to take him probably 2 years to get up to somewhere close to your level.
I mean, it's kind of like that is how MMOs are structured because you should, as a veteran player, be rewarded for the time on it. This isn't Call of Duty where you can play and instantly be at the same level as the guy next to you in every form of content. The issue for me in my mind isn't that there's a gear disparity. The issue is what types of gear disparity are we having? If we want to go do AOS practice mode together, we can, not a problem. But if we want to PvE together, we can't meaningfully. I can PvE with you and I will gain less for my time than if I did it by myself. So there's no meaningful way for me to bring you up to my level or me to go down to your level. I can't just bring you aboard and then go to Edania and fight the new 3-person grind spot. Not possible.
Yeah.
But I can bring you into AOS and do that. Can't bring you into Red Battlefield. Not possible. Can't run around an Arsha with you. Not possible because there's too much of a disparity.
Correct.
So it's MMOs. It's normal for you to have that time sink, and I'm okay with the time sink. I'm okay with time investment. But there should be some more ways, I guess, to bridge that gap. And I'm not looking for more capped content because we have that in Node Wars, we have that in Siege Wars, we have that in C1 through 7, which are no longer even that rewarding. We have that in, AOS. These are all capped forms of content, right? But there should be in PvE. Where is your capped content outside of Calamity 1 through 7 that you can do that is meaningful? I can't do something like you come in and play a game with me. A game mode would be what makes sense if they had something like Shadow Arena where you could have done PvP content together. You could just queue in with a couple of friends at the same time, or a PvE version of that where you could do something that is like a time limited game mode. Like if Altar of Blood was equalized gear, for example, that would make it kind of fun to play with players. Treat it like a dungeon run.
Yeah.
My only comment on that would be that in basically any other MMO, for somebody else to catch up with you, it might take, a couple months. It's not on the same scale that BDO has because of the enhancement system. Because it's a Korean game, the enhancement system is much harder, and you have to put way more time into a game like Black Desert. Most MMOs, they're roller coaster. They'll come out with some new content. Might take you a couple months, if that. It's usually less than that. It's usually like less than a month to catch up to other people, and then you can do whatever they want. But BDO's never been like that.
0 to 750 gear score is maybe a month and a half to 2 months if you're dedicated. 0 to 800 gear score is maybe 3 to 6 months. So
No.
by the time you hit
No, I agree with that
750,
completely. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
You can.
Yeah, what's 0 to 365 cast? Or sorry, 865.
2 years.
I'm not like I think maybe I'm 865. Like that is somebody a fresh account. If they grinded, like if they put their fucking nose to it, they can get out to where I'm at in a year and a half.
That's the thing is you'd have to be hardcore grinder to do that though.
You
It's
would,
not.
but that's
You
the nature
would.
of Black Desert Online is that you
Yeah,
are
and that's what
you
I'm saying
are
is
it
it's
but
unlike
like
other
I'm also
MMOs.
been playing the game for 10 years. So in a year and a half, you can get what I got in 10 years. I think that is a reasonable amount of time.
It's also not considering the fact that they continue to give us more and more stuff for free.
No, it is considering that. That's how you end up at the same gear score. It's because they keep giving you free stuff.
I
Yeah,
think
I
I think
saw
I think you're talking about
a
like later on. Like right now, we get a lot of free
Yeah.
stuff. They're gonna keep giving us free. Like over the year and a half it takes
I
them,
agree.
they're gonna get more free
Yeah.
stuff. So
I agree with you, but
They
as
are.
they give you more free stuff, your gear stat, you will have stat growth. There will be stat growth in the game.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Like,
that-
I'm saying I think
yeah.
it's going to be faster as they give us more stuff.
yeah,
It is,
I
and
don't.
that's how they're trying to reel in new players. I saw a
I
post.
firmly disagree with all of you guys because if that was the case, everyone would be the same gear level today.
No,
No.
That is not the case because every time they introduce new free shit, it's on the back of them increasing. When I say stat growth, I'm talking about top end stat growth via the introduction of new items. They introduce new items, they introduce new crystals, they introduce new artifacts. There is top end stat growth every time they give you free shit. They'll give you free shit for a year, but that year you'll have a 10 gear score stat growth.
yeah, but they have better gear then, and then they'll be making more silver per hour then. The
Correct.
process
But
will
it
be
doesn't change that stat growth happens. Like stat growth will happen across the board. So
yeah, but
a player,
yeah.
let's say you and I are playing at the same pace, and I'm just doing maintenance shit, and you're just doing maintenance shit. I will always be ahead of you. There will be a point 10 years down the line where you will catch up to me. But if you're grinding regularly and you're playing more often than I am, and I'm playing more often than you are, or if we're playing like investing 40 hours a week into this game, some crazy fucking number, just grinding our faces off, you'll also still never catch me, even though I'm at the top end. You will get close. But there'll be like 4 or 3 gear score difference. But as most players play at the casual rate they play, the gear stat growth will be up like 10 points. You'll go up like 10 AP DP, 5 AP DP, whatever the case it is. There'll be some stat growth, and simultaneously they'll give you free shit.
Yeah,
They'll
no,
give you
we're not
that
talking
year. You'll
about
get hammers, you'll get new armors, you'll get all kinds of stuff.
we're not talking about like if a person does maintenance. We're saying what you're saying is that if that person puts their nose to it and they keep grinding hard with how much they're giving us free stuff, that person, let's say like a year ago, who was doing that, is gonna get more free stuff. That's gonna like you said. You're saying it's gonna take a year and a half. We're saying yeah, it's definitely gonna take a year and a half, but they'll probably have a way easier time, and it might even be just a little bit faster if they're also getting free stuff while putting in the hard work.
But that's where I'm saying is I agree with you, but I'm saying that year and a half with that in mind, with the free stuff they give you
Okay.
Oh,
frequently
okay.
in mind, because they always give you free stuff. They gave you free stuff last year. They gave you free stuff the year before that. They gave you free stuff you got a pen Black Star last year. This year you got another pen Black Star for free. And it's not like they took away the old one and gave you the new one. They just gave you both. And then they
It's kind
introduced
of
sovereign
crazy what they've
weapons.
been dropping.
So and then instead of at one year they gave you a tier 9 horse, and then another year they gave you another tier 9 horse, and then the following year they gave you a free tier 10 horse. You see what I'm saying? Is like as the new things come up, as there was the Krogdalo horse, they then introduced a free tier 10 horse to you. So the free stuff comes on the back of stat growth. The reason that things slow down in terms of free stuff is because the stat growth slows down in the game.
Oh no,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying now. Yeah.
Yeah, to
Ugh.
put in to put into
Mm.
perspective in terms of extremes. Okay, there are hunters that have only do maintenance. They log in, they do their solo bosses, their group bosses, who have literally gone up 70 gear score within the past couple of months. On the other extreme, and I love to use this guy as an example because he's insane, Shimiko. When Shimiko came back to the game, if I remember correctly, he was about sitting at 780 gear score at the time. I think Z was like around 830. Shim grinds a lot. He can
I was
grind
850. I
eight.
was 855.
Sorry, 850. Yeah, he can grind 10 to 14 plus hours a day. Okay, he is now as geared as Z, if not more.
I need
Like,
that
he's
work
more good.
ethic. I need that work ethic. I can't do it for more than an hour.
But
bro.
like
So
that goes into what I'm saying is like the
Yeah.
time and effort you put in. It's effort based luck is how I describe it, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
more
yeah.
effort you put in, the more luck you achieve.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
and it took him about 7 to 8 months to get there. So
Right.
it just and his
And
RNG
then
is not like the best.
at some point, it just becomes a matter of luck, right? Because like now, if I have all deck accessories and all deck weapons, the only thing that's holding me back is armor. Guess what? I can't progress my armor faster than one week at a time. Right. So
No,
like
yeah.
at that point, it's just which of us is the luckier of the two.
No, yeah. I think my problem, someone was saying earlier, was like, I don't think I care about how much time it takes for me to catch up. My problem is the content that I have to do is like my problem because I think that the grinding for like an hour is the most like unless like somebody's talking to me is the most mind numbing thing I could do.
Bro, you are preaching. I hate grinding. It is the worst part of this game. But
Yeah,
if you do an hour grinding, a day, you'll end up with 30 to 40 bill a week right now if you're in Adania.
I don't think I've grinded at all in the last 3 weeks, and I still pull up billions of like my week stat growth or my week silver gain week over week is probably something to the tune of 50 billion silver a week. I'm still making about 200 billion silver a month in purely just items they're giving away, silver I'm getting from fishing, silver I'm getting from solo boss rushes, group boss rushes, Alezra, Pit of the Undying, and the Cronstones I'm getting therein. I haven't had to buy Cronstones outside of maintenance taps. So like I do my maintenance taps and then I can buy Cronstones, right? Like because I just get the Cronstones from I haven't had to buy Cronstones in 2 months. Like
I
that I
agree.
didn't need for maintenance. So like right
100%.
now I just spent 30 billion silver because I did my maintenance taps, which is like my 5 taps my armor, and then I did my 12 billion silver taps into my Alkstone. I can't do more than 12 billion silver into the Alkstone. I'm capped, right? That's it. Anything I do after that is gravy. The only gravy item I can tap is my main hand.
Yep.
no,
That's
yeah,
completely
no, that yeah. I'm not even just saying just grinding because like I'm kind of like okay, I doing the same thing that I've done. So let's say for instance like okay, we have dungeons, we have shrines. In my brain, I'm like okay, these are fun, they're quick and they're fast. Like dungeons, shrines, and some solo. I don't do solo a lot. It's like some solo stuff offline that I do to get silver. And like to be fair, I make enough silver so I could just do a few taps, some deck taps, and then I get off and I go do whatever. That's like fine. But like but then I know it's like I'm only getting on for like a day or two. When in most cases I'd rather be on playing, but the things I have to get on and play for, it's just not fun. Like
No, when you're at the end game and you're trying to get decks, it's not fun. It's not fun at all when you have to do potentially 330 taps on a weapon.
Real quick, Bongo just jumped in with us, and I'd like Bongo to have a chance to introduce himself, and then he can partake in the conversation with us as well.
Hey,
Bongo, do you want to
hello.
introduce? Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. My name is Bongostar. I have been playing the game since the beta, but I have been staying in the game for since I joined as the hunter longer. Since I've been quitting, coming back like 10, 15 times.
And just as a
And
little bit of
well,
as a little bit of like a kind of an introductory piece for you as well. Bongo is ESL, so he's English as a second language. Though he speaks very well and very very clearly. There are still words and stuff that he doesn't quite get.
correct.
All right,
yeah, I got you. Yeah.
go ahead, Bongo. You
Welcome
were in
in.
the middle of something. I interrupted you, buddy. Keep going.
Yeah. So what I was hearing about the conversation, is that first, well, in my point of view, since I've started since the game started, it's that I think the game must retain what it makes it well famous or what it make a lot of people join the game. Movies, that comes one part, second part, or video games, first part or second or third part.
Mhm.
It's because the first one is the what it make it the best. And when BDO came out, what it make the best, it was the PvP.
Mhm.
Yes, there was PvE, there was um, a lot of stuff you can do, but the PvP was the main thing. What everybody started playing the game, and I feel like removing that or nerfing that, it did make the game less fun or less motivated than it was before. As he mentioned, or you can leave your character FK fishing or AKF doing training or anything like that. But that was something that you always did extra in the past because you wanted to go always to PvP. You want to have a deck war on. You want to get ganked by 5, 10 players, get a swap out of server. That what was the game made you grow. If you're gonna grind 1 hour, it will make you grind 2 hours because you wanted to get more. When you grind 4 hours, it made you want to grind 5 hours because you wanted to get ahead of the game. And that's the main reason why video was big. Well, from my perspective of view. And now it's just like FK, try to trap 1, 2 times or 4, 5 times a week, do that again. And now for people that, well, I'm gonna say that I live in Mexico. It's not always affordable to leave the PC 24/7 AFK because the have to pay. It's much different what you pay in other
Yeah.
parts of the world. So it's not always affordable. The only thing you can do is get the free stuff, grind 2, 3 hours a day if you can, and do what you did. But you don't get that benefit of leaving FK. Like probably I can 1 day a week or two, but not always.
Yeah.
So that's from my side. For people from other countries, it's how it feels different from a perspective from the USA.
So I agree with a lot of what Bongo is saying here, and I think that it's true that I remember the early days of Black Desert Online. It felt like an arms race. The
Everything
times
was
that you were-
contested.
Yeah, when you
Everything.
weren't online, everyone else was gaining gear and gaining in stats, and you were falling behind. And you constantly were trying to keep up with people because everything was contested and your gear was important. It mattered. Because if you didn't have the gear to fight for yourself, then you were just going to get steamrolled by somebody who did. You would lose to gear because you didn't invest the time. So you felt compelled to get on and do shit in the game, run around and grind. And I used to play this game even I didn't stream the first like 6 or 7 years that I played this game. I only started streaming in like 2021, 2022, something like that. Right. I played this game every day even when I wasn't streaming. Right. I enjoyed this game. This was the game that I was playing. But when the decks went away, the pressure was off. This is now a comfy game. I can come on and sure, I get PvP content, but it's not like it was before. I have to work for it. And
Yeah.
two, there isn't any stakes behind it.
I mean, I'll tell you from my perspective, the world's pretty dead. Back when Serendia Elvia was the place, literally every single grind zone had at least
A person in it.
not all, if not all routes filled, most of them. You'd have to duel for spot. You'd have to go in, kill somebody, and take their route. Nowadays, you just walk in any route you want. Even on Arsha, I hardly see anybody at the later grind zones.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember,
Sure.
for example, when you went for orcs, there was one person in the 10 orcs that are in the area waiting for the spawn, and you had to fight that one orc who was going to come every like 10, 12 minutes. And in Mark Shadows, there was a very low zone area to grind to get the Mark Shadows, and you had to kill 1 or 2 mobs only for you because it was packed from 20, 30 people. Or you deck them without any like consequences, and you kick them out of that area so you can grind freely.
Which I think,
And that doesn't exist anymore.
do you think if they cut the servers in half, it would help this, or to like a third?
I think the only if you're like this is a twofold problem. You can cut the servers in half and introduce the Marnie realm like we talked about, and introduce one-sided deck PvP, and then you'd have a more populated game. Or the problem is the reason, and this is like honestly a huge issue in my opinion with the game's optimization, is every time they load a Marnie realm, every time they load an AOS, every time they load a instance of any kind in this game, it loads the entire game map, and the game's not that stable to begin with. So I do wonder if that's bogging down the game.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
I think
Like, and then and it's not just that, but every server represents two shards of the same server because you have the regular server and you have the LV realm of that server.
Oh yeah.
although LVRM's pretty much empty these days because nobody's
No
really
reason to do
going
it. No reason to go there.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, I think the permanent all the uptime Marnie realm would probably make the world more dead. Honestly,
I also do though think like on that comment about Elvia realm being a problem. Like, I think Decia Lanterns kind of fucked that up because you now have Decia Lanterns and you have Elvia realm, but I can't think of one spot that requires both Elvia Realm and Dekia Lanterns. So why wasn't it just Elvia Realm?
Probably for the same reason you said.
Why it can't a
But
level
that's
3
already happening.
lantern?
The second shard of the server is already there.
I hear you, man. I don't think this developers who developed Elvia and the people who developed Dekia are anywhere close to the same people.
They just wanted to add more mechanics to the game.
For the
I
same
mean,
reason why
Dekia,
That's the
Dekia
same,
is
it's the
also a
same thing.
sink. It's a resource sink. You
for
know,
the same reason why
Yeah,
They
Dekia
that's
2
true.
lantern can't be used at a Dekia 1 spot. It
Yes.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like again, I hear you on the resource sync, but again, you could have just had an Elvia server resource that works exactly like.
Yeah,
Atlas
no, I
Phoenix.
don't disagree with you. It's just I don't think the developers were the same because I think the original developers moved on. I don't think they.
I think you're right. I think that's actually true. I think what you're saying is correct.
I mean, it would
like-
make sense.
My bad. So I didn't want to cut you guys off because I was thinking of something I heard earlier. You're talking about like, because I keep like hearing about the guilds and one-sided decks, and like, I guess like I mean I have my opinion about it, but I guess I fail to see like when they got rid of guild stuff because of how personal and how offline it was getting. I mean, like, what would you say is like more like the player's fault than the game's fault at that point for like why it left?
I 1000 think it's Prohibus' fault. All they have to do
Prohibus?
is enforce their TOS. You can't
Yeah.
blame the player for them not enforcing their TOS. This is like, let's say Destiny 2 had an exploit in their game and they put it in the game. I'm not going to blame the player for the exploit existing. I'll blame the
Mhm.
company for allowing the exploit to exist. Sure, you can roll back that player's account. You can say, hey, if you do this, you will have your account rolled back. At that point, the player is making a choice. But you cannot get mad at the players for utilizing systems that you introduce into the game. What you can do is moderate your fucking game like every other company in the goddamn world's do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were super
exactly.
hands off for so long. But
I will-
one-sided decks, if you remember, they were a solution to a problem. That problem was people karma bombing you and just
Yeah.
sitting in your rotation. When they took away one-sided decks, there's literally nothing you can do now. If somebody wants to come up and that they're not in the guild and they want to walk on top of your grind spot and screw with you, you can't do anything against them except to karma bomb yourself or leave.
Well,
There's no solution.
I will also add that they didn't raise the consequences of removing a deck or taking off the deck. Like it literally cost you nothing removing a deck. And I remember that at least there were some guilds that have been in the past where they didn't even let us take out the 1 million to 5 million they give you because the guild didn't have funds because we were undecking a lot. So we didn't have like silver to do that. But nowadays they give you free silver, they give you everything that you have no consequences on removing a deck. And actually, they should raise the consequences of removing a deck, so you think it twice.
Oh, true.
Yeah, but now, like I said, the environment has changed too much. There's
Yeah.
too many PvE Andes now in this environment.
Yep.
The game has to exist for them too. Otherwise, the same exact problem that we had as PvP players, the bait and switch problem, will happen to those players too, and they will just leave and we'll have a worse off game board.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's why I
definitely.
think, like, legitimately, the idea of the desert just being a lawless wasteland is probably the best idea I've heard of so far of like trying to get it back to that.
That's why
Because
they
it
need
That's
that
allows
all you have to
system.
do. Like,
Yeah.
is low, make it super easy to kill mobs, have it exist only in the deep desert to entice players to go there of all gear scores, right?
Mhm.
And then players that are lower gear that are grinding there and they're getting giga rewards. Cool. You know what other game did this successfully? Doom. Doom did this with a good amount of success. They had the deep desert where the best resources were available, and players would take a lot of risks to go out there and do that content. That game eventually died because they actually made it so that you did not need to go to the deep desert to get those resources.
As long as those spaces are always contested and there's enough people to contest them, that'd be a fine idea.
I think they would overall.
I'm
Actually,
sure
I
they
think
would because every person who can hit the tiny cap of whatever it is will go there because that's what this game does. That's why zones like what's that place in Land of the Morning Light that was really good for until they introduced the AP caps?
Hongland?
Wow.
Golden Pig
Yeah,
Cave.
Hongland.
No,
Yeah, Honglam.
Bitter
Honglam
Blossom.
Freaking People
Bitter
started
Blossom-
grinding at Honglim, and then they left when they could do like whatever the top content was because the money was so good.
Bitter
Yeah.
Blossom's bringing up a point in my chat. She says it also died because the Zerg guilds wiped out on servers. This is the other portion of it. You go in the deep desert, if they're not in your party, not platoon, if they're not in your party, they're hostile to you. I think that would be extraordinarily fun. It works
As long as
exactly
you
like it
can't
does
see
on
who
a non.
people are.
Yeah,
Would have to
it
be
works exactly like it
anonymous.
does on a non-Arsha. Everyone's hostile to you. They're red. They just because you're in the deep desert. Hold on one second.
Mm.
I'll be right back.
I got you.
Yeah, if you made it like anonymous Arsha where you couldn't see people's names.
Yeah, it would work at that
I
point.
mean, it would work some. You could still have people coordinate it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it done. I mean, I've seen Vagabonds on A9R Shed literally organize 20 people in teams of 5s.
you
or
just do it
whatever.
in zone. You basically just do it in zones where each team's in a
Yeah.
different spot.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Or they dot. Oh, yeah. They get serious. They take their PvP very seriously, okay?
No,
But,
yeah,
you know, the
but
thing is.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh no, you can finish your thought, and I was gonna move to something else actually.
About the PvE Andes, there is literally a generation, I like to call them a generation of players that have come into this game within the last 2 years that don't know what a dangerous world in this,
What's a
this MMO
DFS?
space is.
What it used
You
to be
know,
like.
they've never experienced fear. They've never experienced seeing a ping show up while they're in the middle of a rotation and knowing they're about to be jumped by 2 or 3 people. Like,
Yep.
and even people on Arsha, you kill them, they start yelling slurs at you. You know, that they get really hostile. Like, I'm trying to grind. Why are you griefing me, bro? You know,
How dare you
you tell
PvP
them,
on my PvE server?
I'm like, did you read the thing that pops up and says that it's a PvP exclusive server? And they're like, I'm here for the drop rate.
Of course.
You know, go bother somebody else. And they get really upset. You know, and it's I mean, you always gonna have players like that, but
Yeah.
you know, there's just a generation of players that have just don't
They've
They-
never experienced a duel for spot.
Yeah.
ever. But that's all I had to say.
Oh yeah.
Constantly having to like
Mhm.
rotate on your mini map to see if someone's coming to jump you. Just constant.
Yeah. You saw that ping? Where did that ping come from? Where? Look around. Where's
Mhm.
You see a white dot, the white dot disappears. You
Yeah.
know it's either
that?
a Kuno
So-
ninja
Yeah.
or a Sork.
Bitter Blossom said it's the same in Arc Raiders. You're not allowed to PvP in their game. They just slur so hard when I kill them. So like in Black Desert Online, that's content. Like
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
content. Like get mad, buddy. Like I fucking get mad or get gear. I don't know what you want from me. You know what I mean? Like get mad, get gear, get good. You have those 3 things. Those are your 3 options. You know, like or just fucking spawn town, you know?
Yeah.
Like that is part of what makes the like you're not forced to be in the deep desert under this concept design. It's just efficient. And it's not like it's the only grind zone in the game. Because if you heard my idea, it wasn't to make that grind spot unique drops. I'm not talking about adding things like Edanian shards that are unique drops.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about those things. I'm
Just
talking about
best
making
silver
the
per
best-
hour.
Yeah, the best silver per hour. A consistent silver per hour, not based off of like, okay, you know, I got a lucky drop because you just make the trash worth like 5-6 billion silver. Easy. That becomes the best grind spot in the game for everybody.
It does also mean that you could create a cartel that sells silver.
Sounds like content to me.
Basically, you could have all your grinders turn off their
Like the
pickups and
mob.
then
Yeah,
Just
but like
boost
that's no
people.
different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally, it was no like you're not talking about a system that's so unique that we haven't experimented with it. We did this at Salsons when the game first came out.
Yeah. Gotta pay to be here. Mob system.
Time
Yeah.
for it.
I wanted to say that there's a quick story about fishers. They were trying to take down to the city fresh fish, and each time they take him back, well, it didn't come that fresh. It was always like some die, some smell really bad. So what they did is they put inside the boat a small like tank with water of the ocean, and it's still even coming back to city. It didn't came fresh. So the third thing they did is they placed a shark inside the tank, and yes, the shark ate some fish from the tank, but that keep the fish alive. Even though they lost some fish because the shark ate them, it made the fish count completely. That's you hear my cat? Sorry. But that keep the fish fresh to get to town. So I would say the same thing with BDO. If there's no danger and everything is super safe, it
Yeah.
gets you bored. It doesn't make you feel alive. It doesn't make you like survive. And that what happens lately. Everything is super safe. Everything is super like you have the Marnies area. You have 25 servers. Uh, you cannot on deck anymore. So it's super safe. You don't feel again that you need to survive.
You know what?
No, and I agree. I've said that
Yeah.
many times too. That a safe game is not a fun game.
Yeah, I just thought about it, like you put it like that. When I think about it, I think that's true. Cause like I remember when I used to do my hour grinds. I think when I was farming for my potion and I was at Ronaros, I used to look over my shoulder like every so often. I'm like, look around. All right, I'm still good. Look around. Okay, I'm still good. And I guess I'm constantly engaged because I know I'm gonna get PvP'd. It's just win. It's not a matter of if, only when. And now it's like I know I'm not gonna get PvP, so my brain just turns off doing the same rotation over and over. Oh wow, I didn't think about it like that actually.
I think you should start grinding in Arsha. I think
You
you should go to
gotta,
Histria.
dude. Even on Arsha, like I grind on Arsha, on MS Arsha whenever. Sorry, I haven't grinded in like a month or two, but when I grinded before, I would always grind on Arsha. And sure, you keep an eye on the minimap, but hell, you're not even being attacked these days.
I would tell him just to alt C and attack anybody he saw.
I mean, but that goes back to like the whole purpose of why someone's there. People on Arsha, generally speaking, are just there for the higher drop rate, and that
Yeah,
is the point that I was making.
100%.
Mhm.
That is
100%.
exactly the point that I was making. So if you make that deep desert, you don't need an Arsha. You could just make it anywhere.
Yeah.